Good morning, everyone, and good morning to our guests and Mary's friends. Welcome home. There is in this place the possibility of healing, of repair, of making things right within ourselves, between us and the wider world. We gather around this light of hope as we share this time together. Amen, Ashe, and may it be so.
Thank you, Ashanti, and welcome to everyone on this beautiful, I don't know what it's like where you are, but it's a beautiful Sunday morning here. Our prelude this morning kind of reflects on our service last Sunday. Last Sunday, we talked about living in mystery and that we don't always have to have the answer to everything. And sometimes we just need to let it be and appreciate the awe and the wonder of life without trying to solve it or figure it out. So I felt like this morning might be a good time for us to start out the service with a prelude that brings us some awe and wonder in the mysterious journey we're all on. Beautiful, the awe and wonder. And I just came back from a month on the Great White Tundra. So that's very special to me and very dear to my heart. But it's nature is so beautiful. We just take time to appreciate it and enjoy it. We have a few announcements this morning. Next Sunday, we are approaching Valentine's Day. And we are such a giving people. We spend so much of our time doing and giving for others and fighting for justice, and we forget to take care of ourselves sometimes. So Angela Gala is going to join us. She has been a public school advocate for a long time in Mecklenburg County. And she started a group that's called Youth Meditation Program, helping youth to be stress-free, to learn about life and to learn to take care of themselves. And she's going to join us next Sunday morning and help us a little bit in learning to love ourselves a little bit more and taking care of ourselves. So that'll be next Sunday for Valentine's. Then on February the 18th, Giving Communities with Corey Easterly, who is with Current Initiatives, will be speaking to us. And we will be privileged to have Allison Tanner on the 25th, who is the national organizer for apartheid-free communities, to give us an update on Palestine. And we at Wedgwood unanimously voted to approve of a pledge anti-apartheid in support of Palestine. And she's going to talk to us about how can we live up to that pledge that we made as a small church and as just individuals. How can we live up to that pledge? So I think that's a Sunday that you definitely won't want to miss, especially if you're interested in the situation in Palestine and Israel. Our social justice book club is very slowly plodding along with this book. It's an awesome book, but somebody said last week it needs to be a semester course in a college. We do a few pages a week because it's really heavy history, and it's hard because none of us know the history of the Middle East. It's just all new to us. But it's a wonderful book, and we are learning so much. It's the 100 Years War on Palestine. So feel free to join us. You can catch up. We're reading through Thomas, help me. Is it chapter 2 or through chapter 2?
To the end of chapter 2.
To the end of chapter 2. So you can catch up with us, and we've got some notes that have been taken on the first couple chapters by one of our members that we can send you to help you also. But we're learning a lot that I certainly did not know. So join us. We meet every 2 weeks on Zoom. Mark your calendars. We got a lot happening at Wedgwood. We lost our property, so we're on Zoom now, and we do very well on Zoom. But we are going to have a planning session on Saturday, February the 17th at the Freedom Center for Social Justice. Everybody is invited to come and attend and share your ideas. Cameron Pruitt will be leading us in the discussion and in doing some planning towards growth and as a church where we need to go from here. Our food pantry that we work with Hearts United for Good is in great need of blankets, depending on what the weather does, but they've had a number of people needing sleeping bags and blankets and gloves. I told you a story last week about a man that was sleeping outside of our food pantry that they encountered on the way out one evening and had to get some things for him. So if you would have some blankets and things that you can share and they can keep them to next year if it turns summertime here, bring them to my house. I'll be glad to take them, or take them directly to the food pantry yourself. And I also want to give an update. I told you about a dog we have named Junior that was brought to our food pantry by a family who has really had some horrible luck. Dad had to have toes amputated, can't walk well. They lost their job. Mom got sick, and they had to bring their beloved dog they brought him to us because they knew that we would take good care of him. And they had to give him up, and it was a heart-wrenching situation. They cried and cried as they left him there. We found a new home for him. So he's going to a great home where he will have his bed again, his toys, and everything. He's been staying with someone at the food pantry. So we take care of everybody. We love our animals too. So I am so happy for Junior. He's going to a new home tomorrow. The family's been vetted. He's been neutered. I'm sure he's not real happy about that, but he's had his vaccines and he's in great shape, and he's going to a wonderful, loving family. So I am so happy for Junior. Membership is easy at Wedgwood. If you go onto our website, there's a form that you complete just telling us a little bit about yourself. We like to be sure you understand who we are at Wedgwood too, so peruse the website. But we would love to have your membership at Wedgwood. Membership entitles you to vote and have a part in the organization of Wedgwood. Follow us on social media. We're all over the place and we keep it up to date. Our website stays up to date, so be sure and check it out. And that's the best place to learn about who Wedgwood is. We're here to help if you have concerns, if you have complaints, constructive criticism. We are a lay-led church, so we want our members to contribute and give us ideas. And Ryan was telling me about some speakers this morning. So please contact us. If you have needs, please contact us. If you're sick or someone you know, and anything that we can do to help. I'm the ministerial coordinator. Liz is not here today. She's community outreach. Ashanti is our music coordinator, and Ryan is our technology coordinator. And please give to support Wedgwood Church. And yes, we don't have a building right now, but we are active in the community with our social justice work. We work with the Ukrainians. We've helped them find apartments. We've bought school supplies for their children. We have a food pantry. We are doing so much in the community, so we need your financial support to enable us to be able to do these things to help our less fortunate brothers and sisters. Thank you. And now Thomas will lead us in our extravagant welcome. He will read a phrase and we all just respond with, "We are all welcome here."
We are all welcome here. Welcome to a church that works for peace, justice, equality, and the care of Mother Earth.
We are all welcome here.
An extravagant welcome to you because of your gender identification, sexual orientation, ethnicity, economic situation, physical and mental challenges, doubting or believing, being depressed or full of joy.
We are all welcome here.
We are a community of curious and creative spiritual seekers, striving to learn and embody the way of Jesus and other spiritual leaders.
We
We
are
are all
welcome
welcome
here.
here.
Like Jesus, we focused on the plundered and marginalized as we try to address the major issues of our day.
We
We
are
are
all
all
welcome here.
here.
One of the ways we seek to heal the world and ourselves is through sharing parts of our personal story.
We
We
are
are
all
all
welcome here.
here.
Thank you. We are all welcome here. And now Ashanti has a moment for Black History Month.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Do we have a picture up for him? Ryan? No?
Yes.
A
It's
moment in
slide
black.
14.
I got it.
Okay. And this is Frederick McKinley Jones, born May 17, 1893, and he passed away on February 21st of 1961. He was an American inventor, entrepreneur, engineer, and winner of the National Medal of Technology, an inductee of the National Inventor Hall of Fame. Jones invented the mobile refrigerator, car, and truck, and that he received 61 patents.
Wow.
Yeah, 61 patents, and 40 of them were for the refrigeration technology. Thanks to Frederick McKinley Jones, we can transport our produce and products at safe temperatures. His innovation was also used by the U.S. Defense Department in World War II. In addition to transporting food and drugs and blood plasma, the cooling systems were also used to air condition field hospitals and cockpits. Thank you, Frederick McKinley Jones.
Yes. Thank you. A great American that perhaps many of us did not know about. Now is our time for celebrations and concerns. We have several concerns this morning. Laura Bazan had recovered from COVID, tested negative, and this week relapsed and is testing positive again and is very sick, sicker than the first time. Her husband, Jim, also has COVID. So we want to lift her up and send some positive thoughts and prayers to her for healing, that they recover soon. Connie Johnson, who had heart surgery not long ago, is recovering. We still want to continue to remember her. Laura also has a lot of family issues going on. Her ex-husband, the father of her children, has been seriously ill. So we want to lift up that family. There's just a lot happening there that they are having to deal with. Thomas Blanford and Jet are on a trip to Atlanta this morning, and so they're traveling, and we wish them a safe journey. Liz is spending time with family today, so we hope that she has a wonderful time with her parents. Are there other concerns or celebrations? We'd like to hear the good too. Ashanti was telling us earlier how great her grandchildren are doing, so.
Oh yeah, they are doing so well. So proud of them. And my daughter is an amazing mom. I tell her that often. I'm thankful that I made it through this week of work. I've been home, working from home for 4 years, and I had to go back for a month to do some training, some updating for that. And it has really caused me a lot of anxiety, and it's taken a toll on my mind. And I mean, I like the quiet. I was just telling Mary, I like being at home. I could stay at home and I'll just be happy right here, you know. So it's been taking a toll on me, and I've been really stressed. So I'm thankful that it's almost over, and I'm making it through. And I'm thankful that I have a job. I'm thankful, you know, for my home. I'm thankful that, you know, I have transportation. I'm thankful that I'm provided for. But I'm thankful that this situation is almost over. So I'm thankful and grateful for everything, for all my experiences.
And Ryan just had COVID, so we're glad, Ryan, that you're back feeling better again. No rebounds.
No
That's
rebound.
good, Ryan.
And,
You look
and I
good.
wanted to brag a little bit about myself because
Go
I've been
right
on a weight
ahead.
loss journey for the last like 2 or 3 months. And as of this morning, I'm down 27 pounds.
Wow,
So
Ryan.
I feel like bragging a little
Wow.
bit.
That's
Ryan.
awesome. We won't recognize you when we see you again.
I know.
Well, right. I kept looking at you and I was like, well, maybe she's been rested. Or I was trying to figure out what looked different, but I couldn't pinpoint. So I just was staring at you while I was on the, in your square there, in your hallway.
Right.
Well, that's
Thomas,
great.
Thomas, did you have something? I thought I saw your hand go up. No, no.
You did a thumbs
Any,
up.
anyone else? All right, in the spirit of Wedgwood, we have a moment of silence. Those who believe in prayer, use it for prayer, meditation, if that's your belief, or just time for self-reflection, just to sit and think about how we can be better people, or just time to shake this week off your shoulders, Ashanti, and have a few moments of quiet. Amen. And now I want to introduce you to Mary. Our discussion today is going to be how can we be a part of setting the oppressed free, specifically in the realm of domestic violence. How can we provide a safe place for victims? Mary is the domestic violence advocate for the North Carolina Council of Churches. She considers herself a Carolinian, having grown up in South Carolina and settled in far North Carolina. She earned a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering from the University of Florida and spent 25 years in the chemical industry. She's delighted to focus on people with her second career. Mary is a survivor of domestic violence and now works to empower other survivors and their support networks through training, resources, and faith. She lives in Durham and is proud to call herself a cat lady, as I call myself a cat lady. She enjoys spending time with her friends and family, loves to hike, crochet, garden, and read theology or science fiction. So, Mary, welcome. We are so glad to have you here this morning.
Thank you. And thank you so much. And Laura, is your hand raised? Okay. So, yeah, thank you guys for having me here. It really means a lot. And I really appreciate the opportunity. I actually met Melba briefly at the Mecklenburg Interfaith meeting. And I was there to speak about domestic violence and my program called the North Carolina Interfaith Alliance Against Domestic Violence. The primary purpose of that program is to equip faith leaders of any religion, both ordained and lay, to be first responders of domestic violence. So that's what I will be talking about today, but more from the view of people of faith. And quite honestly, this can be a really hard subject and can trigger people, but please be at peace and at ease. We're not going to be talking specifically about violence, and I have been very intentional to pull out or not to focus on triggers. I have to also say my disclaimer is I am not formally educated in theology and certainly don't feel qualified to speak of the infinite divine. but I will try to give my corner of insight on God's divine love and mercy. I do practice my faith through my tradition of Christianity, but I'm very much a universalist. And I really enjoy seeking and finding the threads of truth through all of the world's religions and through our beautiful universe. It's also my intention today to be inclusive of all of God's beautiful creation in our discussion. So I'm not much into monologues. If you have questions along the way, feel free to jump in, and I do believe we'll have questions at the end as well. So today I'm going to really focus on setting the oppressed free, which is a very basic tenet of all the Abrahamic religions. And I believe of many of the world religions that I am just insufficiently knowledgeable of. I'm going to start with a beautiful quote from the Quran. It is from Yusuf Ali's translation, Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 75. And why should ye not fight in the cause of Allah and of those who, being weak, are ill-treated and oppressed? Men, women, and children whose cry is, Our Lord, rescue us from this town whose people are oppressors, and raise for us from thee one who will protect. Raise for us from thee one who will help. I love that. I love that verse. So in order to expound on this, I'm going to tell you a more modern story of releasing the oppressed. And because I was brought up in the Christian tradition where every sermon always has 3 points, I'm going to tell you a story of 3 women from 3 different towns here in North Carolina, and all 3 of them were in abusive relationships. The first woman was confused and scared, and she went to her faith leader. Her faith leader was compassionate to her plight. He suggested that she be kind and loving, and this would teach her husband how to love in a marriage.
Oh,
But this just emboldened his control, and eventually, with her life in danger, she fled. She left her abuser, she left her faith community, and she left her faith. The second woman was also very anxious and had been so manipulated, she honestly didn't even know her own opinion anymore. Her faith leader was also compassionate and offered her joint marriage counseling. He just wasn't quite sure who to believe. The abuser used the words spoken in counseling to further berate his victim. She eventually did also flee the marriage and her church community, but thankfully did not lose her faith. The third woman and her husband actually went to their faith leader together, and the leader looked at the abuser and said to him, "You are not safe for your wife. You need to leave her house." And surprisingly, he did. I don't necessarily recommend that tactic, but it worked for this couple. They were separated for 10 years and eventually reconciled when it was safe. Their marriage was saved. Their faith community was saved. Their faith was saved. In fact, for the rest of their lives, they went to the same church that had originally happened at, and were very active. I'm the second wife in the story, and I can tell you that faith makes a difference. As members of faith communities, you have the opportunity to make a huge difference, both in the lives of survivors and just in your church and community. You can be the one raised up by God to help an oppressed soul. Now, especially in progressive churches, you may be thinking, not in our church, not in our community. No. This doesn't happen. Although it's 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men in North Carolina. So statistically, it's just not possible for it not to be our church and our community.
Let me say, we have members who have been in domestic violence situations.
Absolutely.
So it happens everywhere.
It does. And that's exactly the point, is it is in every church and every community. Thank you, Melba, for saying this, because it's so hard for us to admit that it happens here. And I think part of it is because we want to believe the best in people, right? We want to believe that's not happening. So to those of you who are here this morning or listening on live stream, if you're experiencing abuse, please know that I'm available and there are resources available to you. Melba, I did put my contact information in the chat. You guys are welcome to, if there's anyone who wants to talk or just wants someone to listen, one survivor to another, I'll be there for you. So the common definition of domestic abuse among advocates and counselors is a pattern of behavior to maintain power and control of one person over the other in a domestic situation. Interesting, because the Oxford language definition of oppression is the state of being subject to unjust treatment and control. So domestic violence is most definitely a part of the umbrella of oppression. And we as children of the divine are called to set the oppressed free, to be one of those sent by God to bring freedom. One of my very favorite verses from the sacred text is translated by the Complete Jewish Bible. It's Isaiah 61:1. The spirit of Adonai Elohim is upon me, because Adonai has appointed me to announce good news to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom to the captives, and to let out into light those bound in the dark. And that line, I just think is so beautiful, to let out in the light those bound in the dark. So will we say, Lord, let it be me? Will we be one of those God raises up to free even one oppressed? But to set the oppressed free, we must be able to recognize oppression. Shameless plug. If you join our class, I will teach you more about recognizing domestic violence. Although many may think of domestic violence as mostly physical, that's what's portrayed on television and such, mostly it isn't. The common elements of control are universal. It's intimidation, coercion, threats, verbal attacks, isolation, denial, blame, using loved ones like children or even pets, abusing authority and privilege, economic control, and spiritual abuse. And this oppression can be unbearable, yet leaving the oppression can be deadly. 75% of women who are killed in domestic violence are killed leaving. The average survivor leaves 7 times before they completely get away.
Wow.
When victims are able to leave successfully, unfortunately, the oppression doesn't stop at separation from the abuser. It can continue in the form of post-separation abuse, abuse of child custody, abuse via the legal system. It can also continue in your physical and mental health as the results to chronic exposure to abuse. This often shows up in diagnoses such as anxiety, general anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and health problems that can be triggered by PTSD, such as chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, migraines, digestive problems, and autoimmune disorders. Focusing on PTSD, which is often the root cause or root diagnosis, I want to talk a little bit about that and explain that a little bit more. I like to define personally PTSD as the physical and mental response to a danger that's no longer present. So the body actually does not realize that the danger has passed. It's so accustomed to being in danger. The largest demographic of PTSD is women who have experienced domestic violence and sexual assault.
Wow.
PTSD is a psychological response to trauma that affects 4% of men and 8% of women. The common understanding of that is because women are more likely to be victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. PTSD is much more likely to happen when the trauma is induced by a friend or family that should be trustworthy. It is less likely to happen when there is a strong social support network. So think of this, you as a community have the opportunity to be part of the network that prevents a debilitating mental health issue. When trauma is chronic, like domestic violence and child abuse, PTSD can take much longer to recover from and be much more difficult to treat. So the symptoms of PTSD can be very oppressive. Victims relive the trauma through nightmares, flashbacks, and intrusive memories. They often go through life in an avoidance mode of trying to avoid any triggers. They are hypervigilant, they're always on, they have difficulty sleeping and difficulty relaxing. And then there's the shame and the self-blame. So that's a lot, that's really heavy. So what can we do to help survivors in our community? Listen and believe. Abusers take away the voice of the victim. So be the opposite of that. Listen to their story and believe their story. Validation is critical to healing. Don't blame them. No one asked for abuse, and abusers can be amazingly charming. It does not help them heal to tell them, gosh, I knew that partner wasn't good for you. That doesn't help them. Be a safe island in an ocean of blame. Encourage them, encourage their voice, their expression, their own decisions. Encourage them to get help, but don't try to force it on them. Wait till they're ready. Walk with them in their journey to help. And sometimes that means sitting with them when they don't want to leave the house or they don't want to face their triggers. And above all, remind them who they are. We are all created by the divine, in the image of the divine, to bring divine to this world. We are not created to suffer. We are not created to abuse. For we are each the material of the divine. In this day and age, abuse blends into the background, so sadly. It's part of the fabric of our lives. There are so many who are abused in marriages, in partnerships, by employers at work, or even bullies at school. They are abused because of the abuser. They are not abused for anything they did or the choices that they made. Although the abusers like to use those things as tools, be it race, religion, sex, gender, who you are, who you love, any of those can be a tool of abuse. And many people experience the type of chronic trauma that leads to PTSD from many different relationships. But as a faith community, we can be that support network to each person. In the Christian Bible, Paul's letter to the Corinthians says, love is patient and kind. Love does not envy or boast. It is not arrogant or rude. Be honest, love isn't easy to do. I tend to stop at patient and kind because that's about all I can get my hands around, especially when I'm driving. But it's a good goal. Another verse from the Christian tradition that so many people unethically use to control others is a word I actually have trouble getting out of my mouth. Submission. It is so used as a hammer of abuse throughout the Christian tradition. Yet it was meant to teach us how to love. It wasn't meant to teach us how to control. So the part of the verse very many people forget about conveniently is submit yourselves one to another. My sweet mama defines submission as deference, defer, yield to, give preference to, be kind. This is not a verse of control. Let the person in who's changing lanes in traffic. Ashanti, that's to me, not you. You're good. Hold the door open for the tired-looking grandpa. Be kind to people whose true self-expression isn't something you understand. Let the voice of your traumatized friends sing with their truth. Believe the pain of a spouse of the pillar in the community. Believe the pain of the minority group. Empower the people in your life to know their divine creator and their intrinsic worth. Recognize the image of the divine in yourself. Defer. In a country, a culture that tells you to grab what's yours. At the same time, never forget your own touch of divinity and therefore the appropriate kindness that should be afforded to each of us by ourselves. This is what I believe is the peace that Jesus Christ spoke of, and that Paul says in his letters to the Romans, in as much as it depends on you, be at peace with all people. Is part of the peace in the Hindu mantra, Om Shanti. May universal peace be with you, and similar greetings in every religion and every language. Finally, last shameless plug. Look to the North Carolina Council of Churches website, where soon we will begin to offer classes to help you be a friend to walk with those who are oppressed in your community. The classes are interfaith and do approach this in a combined view of both spiritual and empowerment advocacy. You're certainly welcome to email me your contact information if you're interested. And any questions?
I'll definitely post the classes. Ryan, if you want to put us back so everybody can see everybody, that would be great. But I will post the classes as I see them. If you think to jog me and remind me or send me an email about them, I will definitely get those out. But I wanted to say, it used to be in the wedding vows, I promise to honor and obey. Used to be in wedding vows. And I think for most people that's been taken out, maybe not in some real conservative churches that do believe in submission, but I never had it in mind. So I just wanted to say that. And the other thing is men are also abused. Women can be the abuser.
Absolutely.
And I think people don't believe men when they say that they are being abused, because people say, I see her, there's no way. So, we got to keep that in mind too. There's also elderly abuse. There are parents living with children who don't want their parents living with them, but they're stuck with them, and they are abused
Absolutely.
at home.
My paying job is with Durham Crisis Response Center as a legal advocate. So I do a lot of domestic violence protective orders. There's several people on the call today who are also have that background. And I do protective orders a ton for men, a ton for parents before their children, grandparents for their children. And it's heartbreaking.
It is.
Because control is epidemic, and people want to use intimidation and power and coercion to control the people in their lives to get what they want. And that's abuse.
It is. It absolutely. So you mentioned opening the door for that grandpa. You don't know what that grandpa's going through.
Mm-hmm.
He may be in an abusive situation, and your smile and your good morning and your opening the door for him may just be the best thing he sees all day. So the other thing I wanted to say is emotional abuse is difficult, because I have known women who were going through horrible emotional abuse, yelled at, screamed at, called every name, but because they weren't in the emergency room with black eyes and beaten up, they had difficulty getting help, and they did not want to leave their children with this abuser. And yet, to get a divorce, he got equal time. The children, they couldn't prove anything. I don't know how the courts are now, but it was very difficult to approve abuse when it's just your word against his and there's no physical trauma there. So
It
that's a rough situation. I don't know if that's changed or not, but
it is a lot better. I've been impressed. Now I'm with the courts. I work with the courts in Durham. But we get a lot of protection orders on emotional abuse.
good.
And so that has been really encouraging for me to see. I didn't know of that when I was going through my story, through my journey and my freedom from oppression.
Yeah.
I didn't realize I could do that. And so that's part of what really encourages me today is seeing so many people get male and female, straight and gay, and any parents and grandparents, is to be able to get protection orders from emotional abuse, verbal abuse, things that don't leave an outside bruise.
Yeah. And it goes across all gender lines. I mean,
Absolutely.
the whole spectrum.
Mhm.
That's all I had to say. I was writing down some things as you were speaking. Thank you very much.
No, I'm
Very
glad.
enlightening. Anybody else? Questions or thoughts or?
Oh, just thank you for your talk. It's very insightful.
Yes, it is. And you did good with the trigger things. No, there wasn't not many triggers, which is good.
Good. It is certainly important to me to spare people from that because that's hard. It's a hard subject and people can get triggered when they're not expecting to be.
Right, right. And some things that you think that you push way back over there and then they come forward. It's like, oh, I thought that was like gone. I took care of that.
Yeah, you're like, oh, what's that feeling?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
I handled that.
It sneaks up on you. And I've been sexually abused as a child, and I don't think it ever really goes away. I think you just get better at understanding who you are, understanding your triggers, talking about it, but I don't think it ever really totally disappears. It just sort of just stays in your DNA. That's what it feels like. It's in your DNA. It doesn't go away, and you know that. You know who you are, and you just have to not adjust, but know that that's there and what triggers are. So I've learned of my triggers, and then you have a feeling you can understand. Oh, I know what that feeling is because that happens when this happens. So I can understand the feeling and not go into a deep depression or pull back. So like I said, it doesn't go away, but you learn how to live with you.
You do. And Ashanti, thank you so much for sharing that part of your story. It bothered me for so long that he had the power to change me, and because it does change you. And but coming to terms with that and then using that change for good and to be able to help other people who've been through it can be really empowering.
Yes, yes, it is
I have a
empowering.
question.
Mhm.
How do you, I'm trying to think of how to phrase it. How do you assist someone that is trying to get away from their abuser, but then they use some of those tactics that you brought up, the emotional manipulation, the child custody manipulation, those kinds of things to keep pulling them back. So every time they make a step away to get away, those tactics, the abuser then uses those tactics to pull them back in and put them back in that situation again. Like, how can you, like, as someone on the outside, assist them when they're trying to, get away from that environment?
That's a really good question. And it's a hard question because I strongly do believe in empowerment advocacy. And what that means is giving the autonomy of a life back to the victim. So in empowerment advocacy, there's only so hard you can push the victim, right, to get away because it has to be their decision and their choice. And if you have someone you love or a friend of yours that's in this situation, patience is required because they have to come to the point that they're ready to leave. And there's only so much you can do to help that. You can help them find safe place. You can encourage them to be strong. I strongly recommend safety planning. What what are you going to do if this happens? Do you have a change of clothes and a night's worth of medication at a friend's house? That type of safety planning can really help someone so that when they do have a crisis, they have a safe place to go and a safe place to be. But when it comes to the final step of leaving and leaving for good, it has to be their decision. And it just takes time.
Yeah.
Because the average is 7 times.
Okay.
And it's because they married or they got with or had children with the offender for a reason.
Yeah.
And they love that person.
Mm-hmm.
And it just takes time to, when you've been so beaten down, to put your own sanity, your own survival first.
And they always promise, oh, I won't do it again. This won't happen again. I love you. It won't happen again. And the woman or the man, as you say, really loves them so much, they want to believe that. And they don't want to give up if there's any chance, that they might change. Is it safe to bring an abuser, mentioned, into a friend's home? I think it would be probably good if it was a friend that the abuser didn't know, but that's pretty difficult. But bringing the abuser into your home, the abused person, the victim, into your home is also a concern. Should you get them to a shelter or a protective place like that? How do you handle that? Is it dangerous bringing to your
we
home?
actually normally encourage people to go to a friend's home.
Okay.
Mainly because you need that social network of support. The best thing for the victim is to be with someone who knows them and cares for them and wants the best for them. And quite honestly, shelter beds are sparse.
Yes.
The Durham shelter works for Durham and Orange County. We have 16 beds.
Yeah.
Yes. So it is pretty much always full.
And should you, if the abuser follows them there,
you call 911.
I was going to say, you call 911. You don't try to talk to them. You don't try to negotiate with them. You should call 911.
Always call 911, because the reality is part of the power and control of an abuser is fear. And when you call, when they see that you call 911, the police come, they go away. It works, but an abuser is pretty much always going to be more willing to be violent than you are. And so use the system that we have, call 911.
Plus, that's a record. That's a record that you can pull up of how many times you've had to call 911.
Absolutely. And get a protective order. A protective order isn't, it's not bulletproof. But it is often effective. It is often effective.
It gives me another question. I've noticed that the abusers will manipulate the victims, like friend groups and family groups, and turn them against the victim. How do you? Is there some kind of process to kind of undo that in any way?
Not that I know of. My ex still goes to the church we went to and has all those friends.
Okay, because I've seen that firsthand, and it's very disheartening, disappointing to see someone that is trying to, get help from like their family, the people that are supposed to love them, and because of things that are being said, the victim blaming is happening from the family. It's your fault these things are happening. You need to make the change, kind of stuff. And it's all it not almost, it actually makes me very angry to hear that.
Good. That's a healthy, righteous anger, right?
Yeah. So it just baffles me at how that works, and just seeing it happen. and just being like kind of confused, and you get that sense of like there's I don't know, there's almost hopelessness because there's nothing you can do. Like me personally, right? I'm not the one being affected. There's nothing. All I can do is kind of listen, bear witness, and comfort, right? The best I can. But it's still like it's disheartening with the people. You see people that say they love that person help damage that person.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And it's so important to validate, don't, to tell that friend of yours, I see what's happening. I see that they've turned people against you. Validate them because they feel like they're going crazy. So validate what they're seeing. You know, in my class, we'll talk about DARVO, which is a form of abuse called that abusers use is deny, accuse, reverse victim, and oppressor. Sorry, deny, attack, reverse victim, and oppressor. So it's a really effective form of abuse because they will publicly reverse who's the victim and who's the oppressor. And they're very, very good at it, the ones who use that. So really the best thing is helping them move on, giving them the courage to make new friends, to create a chosen family. Hopefully at some point, the abuser will show their spots to that family and those friends, but they may not. They may not. And you have to make new friends and new family.
Okay. Thank you.
Ashante has a closing song for us.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashante, the perfect song for today. And we hope everybody will be well and healthy and back with us next Sunday for learning to love ourselves, which goes right along with this theme that we've had today. And thank you, Mary, so much. That was a great discussion. It was such an enlightening message, and we'll be looking for your classes and be in touch with you. Maybe come back another time later on. We really do appreciate it. And now Mary has our closing words, and then Ashante will close us out.
May God grant us the wisdom to seek peace, to pursue dialogue, to embrace diversity, to respect dignity, and to uphold justice. May we be blessed with peace, a peace to ourselves and to others that is a gift and a responsibility, that is a promise and a challenge, that is a hope and reality. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
We extinguish this flame, but we keep the light in our hearts with this message of love and justice, and take it outside of these walls in the world which we live in until we see each other again. Amen, Ashe, and may it be so. Now go in peace.